The rain drummed against the glass walls of the modern art gallery in Polanco, creating rivers that distorted the city lights beyond. Mateo Vega stood alone near a massive abstract painting, swirling his untouched glass of red wine. At 34, he had built a technology empire from nothing, but tonight the success felt hollow. His assistant Diego had insisted he attend this gallery opening to network with potential investors, but Mateo found himself disconnected from the chatter around him. He was studying the chaotic brushstrokes of the painting when a soft voice beside him broke through his thoughts. "It represents internal struggle," the voice said. "The artist painted this during the darkest period of her life, but if you look closely, there are tiny gold threads woven throughout, hope surviving in darkness." Mateo turned, and his breath caught. The woman beside him had warm brown eyes that seemed to hold entire universes, dark hair falling in loose waves past her shoulders, and a presence that commanded attention without demanding it. She wore a simple black dress that was elegant in its understated beauty. "I had not noticed the gold," Mateo admitted, looking back at the painting with new appreciation. "You have a gift for seeing what others miss." She smiled, and something in his chest tightened. "I am Lucia Morales, the assistant curator here. It is my job to help people see the stories behind the art." "Mateo Vega," he replied, extending his hand. When their fingers touched, he felt a jolt of recognition, as though he had been waiting for this moment without knowing it. Her eyes widened slightly, suggesting she felt it too, before she gently withdrew her hand. An unexpected connection. "Are you an art collector, Señor Vega?" Lucia asked, maintaining a professional distance, though her fingers trembled slightly as she gestured toward the next painting. "Please, call me Mateo. And no, I confess I know very little about art. My world is technology, software, algorithms, things that follow logic and rules." He paused, studying her profile as she gazed at the artwork. "But tonight, I am finding that some things cannot be reduced to logic." Lucia glanced at him, and he saw a flicker of vulnerability cross her features before she masked it with a polite smile. "Technology and art are not so different. Both seek to communicate, to connect people, to express what words alone cannot." They walked through the gallery together, Lucia explaining each piece with passion that made even the most abstract works come alive. Mateo found himself captivated not by the art, but by the way she spoke about the art. Her voice carried emotion when she discussed the artist's journeys, their struggles, their triumphs. He wondered what struggles lay behind her own carefully composed exterior. "You speak as though you understand these artists personally," Mateo observed, as they paused before a sculpture of twisted metal that somehow conveyed grace. "Perhaps I do," Lucia said quietly. "Sometimes we must break before we can reshape ourselves into something stronger." Before Mateo could ask what she meant, her phone buzzed in her small purse. The transformation was instant and startling. Color drained from her face, her shoulders tensed, and her hands clenched at her sides. She glanced at the screen and quickly silenced it, but not before Mateo glimpsed a name: Roberto. "Is everything all right?" he asked gently. "Yes, of course," she replied too quickly, forcing brightness into her tone. "Tell me, what brought you to technology? What drives someone to build an empire?" Mateo recognized the deflection, but allowed it. Whatever caused her reaction was clearly not something she wished to discuss with a stranger, no matter how strong their connection felt. "I grew up in Monterrey in a modest home. My father worked in a factory. My mother cleaned houses. I saw how hard they struggled, and I wanted to create something that would ensure I could take care of them, give them the life they deserved." "That is beautiful," Lucia said, her warmth genuine now. "Did you succeed?" "In business, yes. I was able to buy them a house, give them comfort." His voice grew heavy. "But I was too late to give them time. They died in an accident 3 years ago, before they could truly enjoy any of it." Lucia's hand touched his arm gently, a gesture of comfort that felt natural despite their brief acquaintance. "Did you lose someone close to you?" My grandmother Carmen raised me in Oaxaca after my parents passed when I was young. She died 2 years ago. She was my anchor, my compass. Without her, I felt lost, so I came to Mexico City for a fresh start. Running from something or running towards something? Mateo asked, the question slipping out before he could stop it. Lucia met his gaze, and in her eyes he saw fear, sadness, and something that looked like desperate hope. Perhaps both. The promise of more. The gallery director approached, needing Lucia's assistance with a visiting collector. She excused herself reluctantly, and Mateo watched her walk away, noting how she kept glancing at her phone with visible anxiety. Diego appeared at his elbow. "We should go, Señor Vega. You have an early meeting with the Singapore investors tomorrow." "Wait," Mateo said. He approached Lucia as she finished with the collector. "Would you have dinner with me tomorrow evening? I find I want to learn more about art, but only if you are the teacher." Lucia hesitated, conflict playing across her features. Her phone buzzed again, and she flinched. "I should not," she began, but then something shifted in her expression, a decision made. "But yes, I would like that, very much." As Mateo left the gallery, rain still falling in sheets, he felt something he had not experienced in years: anticipation. He did not yet know that Lucia carried secrets that would test them both, or that the name Roberto on her phone belonged to a man who would stop at nothing to reclaim what he believed was his. All Mateo knew was that he had met someone who made him feel alive again, and he was not about to let that feeling go. The morning sun painted golden streaks across Mateo's penthouse windows as he stood on his balcony, coffee in hand, thinking about Lucia. 3 weeks had passed since their first dinner, and each day had drawn them closer together. That initial dinner had stretched into 4 hours of conversation that flowed like water finding its natural path. They had talked about everything and nothing, discovering shared loves of old films, street food, and the quiet moments just before dawn. Since then, they had been inseparable. Mateo found himself leaving work early, something that shocked Diego and the entire office staff. He took Lucia to hidden restaurants in La Condesa, where local families served recipes passed down through generations. They walked through Chapultepec Park on Sunday mornings, feeding the ducks and watching children play. She had cooked for him in her small apartment in Colonia Roma, teaching him to make mole the way Carmen had taught her, laughing when he added too much chili and had to drink an entire glass of horchata. Mateo had fallen completely, irrevocably in love with her. He loved how she hummed while organizing her art books, how she got paint on her nose when she worked on her own small canvases at home, how she listened with complete attention when he talked about his business challenges. But most of all, he loved the moments when she let her guard down completely, when she fell asleep against his shoulder during movies, when she looked at him like he was her safe harbor in a storm. Yet shadows lingered at the edges of their happiness. The interruptions. They were having lunch at a small cafe in Coyoacán when Lucia's phone rang for the 3rd time that afternoon. Mateo watched as her entire body went rigid, the color draining from her face. She stared at the screen with an expression that broke his heart, pure terror mixed with resignation. "You can answer it," Mateo said gently, "if you need to." "No," Lucia said firmly, declining the call and placing the phone face down on the table. "It is not important." But her hands shook as she picked up her fork, and she had lost all appetite despite having been enthusiastically describing the chilaquiles moments before. This was the pattern Mateo had observed repeatedly over the past 3 weeks. The phone would ring, she would see the caller, and fear would eclipse the light in her eyes. He had seen the name enough times now. Roberto. Always Roberto. Sometimes the calls came 5 times a day. Sometimes there would be blessed silence for a full day, but they always resumed. Lucia never answered when Mateo was present, but he had noticed her checking messages obsessively when she thought he was not watching, her face growing more troubled with each one she read. "Lucia," Mateo began carefully, reaching across the table to take her hand, "I need you to know that whatever you are running from, you do not have to face it alone anymore. I am here." Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them back fiercely.
You are so good to me, Mateo, better than I deserve, but there are things about my past that I have not told you, things that might change how you feel about me. Nothing could change how I feel about you, Mateo said with absolute certainty. I love you, Lucia. Whatever your past holds, we can face it together. The words hung in the air between them. It was the first time either had spoken of love, though it had been evident in every glance, every touch, every moment they shared. Lucia's tears spilled over then. I love you too, she whispered, so much that it terrifies me, because loving you means you could get hurt, and I could not bear that. Who would hurt me? Mateo asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Before Lucia could respond, her phone erupted with a series of rapid text notifications. She grabbed it quickly, scanning the messages, and Mateo watched the blood drain entirely from her face. Her breathing became shallow and rapid. Lucia, what is wrong? He knows, Lucia gasped. Roberto knows about you. He has been having someone follow me. He knows where I live, where I work, where we have been together. Her voice rose with panic. Mateo, you have to stay away from me. He is dangerous. He will hurt you to punish me. Mateo stood and moved to her side of the table, pulling her into his arms despite her protests. Listen to me carefully. I am not going anywhere. I don't care who this Roberto is or what he thinks he can do. You are not alone anymore. You don't understand, Lucia sobbed against his chest. He is not just some jealous ex. Roberto Salazar comes from one of the most powerful families in Oaxaca. His father has politicians and police in his pocket. When I left, I thought distance would keep me safe, but he has never stopped looking for me. He believes I belong to him. The name Salazar rang a bell in Mateo's mind. He had heard of the family, old money built on land and political connections stretching back generations. They were untouchable in their region, accustomed to getting whatever they wanted through money or force. Tell me everything, Mateo said, guiding her back to her chair. No more secrets, no more fear. Tell me your story, and then we'll figure out how to write a new ending together. Lucia wiped her eyes and took a shuddering breath. I need to tell you properly, not here in a cafe where anyone could hear. Come to my apartment tonight. I will tell you everything, and then you can decide if you still want to be part of my life. That evening, Mateo arrived at Lucia's apartment building carrying flowers and wine, his heart heavy with the knowledge that whatever she was about to tell him would change things between them. But his resolve had not wavered. He loved her, and love meant standing beside someone even when the path became difficult. As Mateo climbed the stairs to her third-floor apartment, his phone buzzed with a message from Diego. The background check you requested on Roberto Salazar just came through. Boss, this is serious. Call me before you do anything. Mateo had quietly asked Diego to research Roberto after seeing the name repeatedly on Lucia's phone. He had not mentioned it to Lucia, not wanting her to think he was investigating her behind her back. Now, looking at Diego's urgent message, he wondered if he should have read the report before coming here. But no, whatever Diego had found, he needed to hear Lucia's version first, in her own.
Morning light filtered through Lucia's apartment windows, but neither she nor Mateo had slept much. They sat together on her small couch, empty coffee cups scattered on the table, planning their next moves like generals preparing for war. Mateo had called Diego at dawn, instructing him to arrange meetings with his legal team and a private security firm he had used for corporate matters. I will not let him take you, Mateo said for the 10th time, his arm tight around Lucia's shoulders. We have options, legal protections we can put in place. You still do not understand, Lucia replied wearily. Roberto does not care about laws. In Oaxaca, his family is the law, and he has never accepted losing anything he considers his. Mateo's phone rang. It was Diego. Boss, Roberto Salazar landed an hour ago. Our contact at the airport confirmed it. He is traveling with 2 men who look like private security. Where is he now? Mateo asked, his jaw tightening. He checked into the Four Seasons in Reforma, but Mateo, there is more. He has already made calls to the Oaxaca governor's office and to a federal judge. He is preparing legal documentation claiming Lucia breached their engagement contract and stole family property when she left. That is absurd, Mateo said. You cannot enforce a marriage contract, and she took nothing but her own belongings. Truth does not matter when you have enough money and connections, Diego replied grimly. He is building a case to either force her return or have her arrested. Either way, he gets what he wants. Lucia had heard enough of the conversation to understand. Her face had gone pale, and her hands trembled as she clutched a pillow to her chest. He is actually here. This is really happening. Facing the past. 2 hours later, Mateo's phone rang with an unknown number. He answered on speaker so Lucia could hear. "Mateo Vega?" a smooth, cultured voice said. "My name is Roberto Salazar. I believe you have been spending time with my fiancé." "Lucia is not your fiancé," Mateo replied coldly. "She ended whatever arrangement existed between you 2 years ago." "Is that what she told you? How charming. Did she also mention that she abandoned her family obligations, broke a legal contract, and left Oaxaca owing substantial debts to my family?" "Everything you just said is a lie," Mateo said. "Perhaps we should meet and discuss this like civilized men," Roberto suggested. "I am staying at the Four Seasons. Join me for lunch at 1 o'clock. Come alone, and we can resolve this situation without unnecessary complications." "I am not leaving Lucia alone," Mateo said firmly. "Then bring her," Roberto replied. "In fact, I insist. It is time Lucia and I had a conversation about her future, our future." The line went dead. Lucia was shaking, her breath coming in short gasps. "He wants to see me. He wants to see the fear in my eyes. That is how he always was, feeding on control and intimidation." Mateo pulled her close. "You do not have to go. We can handle this through lawyers, through the authorities." "No," Lucia said, and there was steel in her voice now. "I have been running and hiding for 2 years. Maybe it is time I looked him in the eye and told him myself that I will never be his, that I choose you, that I choose freedom, that I choose my own life." "Are you sure?" Mateo asked, studying her face. "I am terrified, but I am also tired of being terrified, and I will not be alone this time. I will have you beside me." The confrontation. The Four Seasons restaurant was elegant and crowded with the Mexico City elite enjoying their lunch. Roberto had reserved a private corner table with a view of the Paseo de la Reforma below. He stood as Mateo and Lucia approached, and Lucia felt her stomach clench at the sight of him. Roberto was handsome in a classical way, tall and well-dressed in an expensive suit, his dark hair perfectly styled. To anyone watching, he appeared to be a successful businessman meeting associates, but Lucia saw what others missed, the coldness in his dark eyes, the possessive way his gaze traveled over her body, the slight tightening of his jaw that had always preceded his violence. "Lucia," he said warmly, as though greeting a beloved, "you look well. Mexico City agrees with you." "What do you want, Roberto?" Lucia asked, remaining standing even as Mateo pulled out her chair. "Please, sit," Roberto insisted. "Let us be civilized about this." He waited until they were seated before continuing. "I want what has always been mine, you. Our families made an agreement, Lucia. Your father and mine shook hands on our union. You dishonor both their memories by running away." "My father is dead," Lucia said, her voice stronger than she felt, "and he would never have wanted me in a marriage where I was abused and controlled." Roberto's pleasant expression flickered for just a moment, revealing the anger beneath. "Abused? Is that the story you told your new friend here? How charming. Did she mention that she abandoned her family obligations, broke a legal contract, and left Oaxaca owing substantial debts to my family?" "Everything you just said is a lie," Mateo said. "Perhaps we should meet and discuss this like civilized men," Roberto suggested. "I am staying at the Four Seasons. Join me for lunch at 1 o'clock. Come alone, and we can resolve this situation without unnecessary complications." "I am not leaving Lucia alone," Mateo said firmly. "Then bring her," Roberto replied. "In fact, I insist. It is time Lucia and I had a conversation about her future, our future." The line went dead. Lucia was shaking, her breath coming in short gasps. "He wants to see me. He wants to see the fear in my eyes. That is how he always was, feeding on control and intimidation." Mateo pulled her close.
You do not have to go. We can handle this through lawyers.